Baking Soda Lab
by Jiana and Ingrassia
and Marisa.
For our experiment, we tested baking soda's effect on chocolate chip cookies. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate and produces carbon dioxide bubbles when heat is added. In this experiment, we baked 4 different batches of cookies with different amounts of baking soda. The baking soda ranged from 0 teaspoons to 8 teaspoons, and we hypothesized that the more baking soda we add, the more the cookies would rise up and get fluffy.
We used the standard recipe for baking chocolate chip cookies, as well as bowls, wax paper, a spoon, a mixer, and the oven. We made 4 batches of 48 cookies each by using this recipe.
These were our materials we used. And we also used the standard recipe and procedure for baking chocolate chip cookies, starting out with washing our hands with soap and water and putting on our aprons. Then basically what we did was we separated the dry and wet ingredients in 2 separate bowls and then slowly added the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients until the texture was completely uniform. This is what our dough looked like after mixing the dry and wet ingredients together.
After we prepared the dough, we put it in the oven and we repeated the procedure 3 more times, keeping all the variables constant except for the amount of baking soda that we put in the recipe, and we increased it a little bit more every single time.
After doing this experiment, we collected some data and observations. Our cookies with 0 teaspoons were very lumpy, small, and underbaked. They tasted greasy, soft, and chewy, and their diameter was very small. Our 1 teaspoon cookies were the best taste out of all of them because this was the standard amount of baking soda. They were small in size, but not as small as the 0 teaspoon, and they were slightly browned, but not burnt. Our 2 teaspoon cookies were even larger in size. They started to get even more brown and even more crunchy and bitter. Lastly, our 8 teaspoon tasted the worst. They were the flattest and they had the largest diameter, and they tasted very bitter and were very brown. These are our cookies ranging from lightest to darkest. These are our cookies with 8 teaspoons of baking soda, 0 teaspoons of baking soda, and this ranges from 0 teaspoons of baking soda to 8 teaspoons of baking soda.
From our results, we concluded that if we add more baking soda, more CO2 bubbles will form. This will rise but may also pop, which contributes to the deflated and large diameter nature of the 8 teaspoon cookies. Also, since we put more baking soda in, it became darker, so baking soda may act as a catalyst to speed up the reaction to make the cookies bake faster.
Some changes we made to our procedure and experiment was we did the original recipe 4 times instead of splitting all the ingredients into 4 so that the numbers were easier to work with. We also added the dry ingredients more slowly to the wet ingredients so that the texture was more uniform and less lumpy. And we also designated a specific amount of cookie dough per scoop, which was 1 inch in diameter, so that our amount of cookie dough used stayed constant.
Some of the errors that we came across were that our measurements may not have been exact because we didn't exactly measure the amount of cookie dough per spoonful, and we may not have actually used the exact amount of every single ingredient. Also, we might not have baked each batch for the same amount of time, which is the standard time of 11 minutes. And then the temperature may have been inconstant because we kept checking up on it in between the baking process, so it might have decreased the temperature. So as a follow-up experiment, we would do the same experiment, but instead of using baking soda, we could use baker's yeast, which is chemically similar, and see if the results are similar or different. We can also do more reactions using weaker bases and mixing them with acids to observe if they produce similar products to the baking soda reaction.
The question that we posed for future tests was, baking soda is produced from Na2CO3 and an acid with H+, which forms the compound NaHCO3. From what you know about acids, bases, and salts, why is it weird that baking soda is a base and not a salt?
Thanks for watching!